or African American, they can't do that. And it's not that they can't do that for some excuses of all of the records got erased or, things of that nature. It's because, unfortunately, the majority of so-called U.S. citizens, so-called Americans, are trapped in what I call the crayon box paradigm, where they're referring to themselves as race, colors, if you will, and it takes away from their nationhood. Now, for your people over here in the Americas, the Irish and the Scottish, if you will, the Scottish and the Italians, if you will, during the days of, the great European migrations and a Reconstruction period, they weren't under a perpetual state of subjugation and were still free to continuously practice the customs and courtesies that came from their nations. So they had the ability to still nationally express themselves. So this is why it's very easy for you to, establish on a record, I'm Italian and what'd you say, Italian and Irish?
Yeah.
So it's very easy for you to do that, and as you should, because even on a biblical level, if you look at it that way, you are to honor your mother and your father, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've just done that by proclaiming nationality. When we talk to so-called black people, unfortunately, my so-called black people are honoring the mothers and fathers of European men when they call themselves black, when they call themselves African American, when they call themselves Negro, when they call themselves colored people or black people of color. That's paying homage to European men because those men are the ones who gave them those pejorative terms under subjugation and segregation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Which this would all align with race abolishment.
Yes, that's it. So that's what this is all about. Okay, you got it. All right, what else you got to add to this, sister? I got a couple other people that want to join in. What else would you like to add to this conversation here?
Well, now knowing that your stance is based off of race abolitionism, I would agree when it comes to that point. Just simply because I think it's kind of counterproductive to continue to label yourself, regardless of what race you may be, by labeling yourself with the labels that the oppressor has given.
There we go. Amazing.
Which I can still see in today's society why race is prevalent, because race is still used as something to oppress people. So I understand why it is still prevalent and mentioned. However, I think we as society, if we just abolished our current systems, rebuilt them, and abolished race, we would be in a way better situation as an entirety.
Hey, let's go. We got it on the record. Sister Cass, thank you so much. You are an intelligent young woman. You are going to get a follow from me, Sister Cass. Thank you so much. Peace and love, Sister Cass. We're going to drop her down.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you so much, Cass. Yeah, let's bring up Jessica Rabbit. Jessica Rabbit. Jessica Rabbit. What? Jessica Rabbit, how are you?
Hey, good morning. I didn't even know I had requested to go live. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's all good. I'll drop you down. No biggie, no biggie.
No, I can stay up. It's fine. I don't mind.
Okay. Okay, what's going on, Jessica Rabbit? How are you?
Nothing much. I'm good. First of all, it is an honor. I hear so much about you from LJ and Mod and all of that crew, and I'm just very honored that I've actually finally met the Evergreen.
Oh, peace. What's poppin'? Hey, I guess my name rings bells on these TikTok streets. I don't know. I've been told.
I've only heard good things. I've only heard good things. So I'm very honored to be with you.
You know what? I'll tell you this. You've only heard good things because you're not on the other side of the TikTok algorithm.
I know that it don't bring me there.
I guarantee you, three quarters of the people that follow my content, hate me.
Right.
That's a fact.
Right.
That's a fact. So let's get to it.
Yeah.
Let's get to it, Miss Jessica Rabbit. Are you someone who classifies and or perhaps maybe I don't know identifies as a white person?
So I'm gonna break it down to you like this. Like the girl that just got off the live. I've been listening and thinking about these questions. When I first came in the live, I was like, yeah, I'm white. You know, my mom and my brother did a DNA test. I come from Europe. Like, I don't have any African, any Middle Eastern, any Asian, any Jewish. Like, I'm straight, like, French, English, Irish, Scandinavian, Welsh, you know, like I'm European, right? Like I am a white girl. But if you ask me what my nationality is, I'm an American. I am born and raised in America. I'm from Louisiana. I'm from New Orleans. So if you want me to get more specific, baby, I'm from New Orleans. So like, I personally don't identify. If I could get away with not identifying as white, I would not identify as white. I would identify as a New Orleanian because that's the best way for me to explain who I am and my culture, if that makes sense. Because
Okay, so I got two things. You said a bunch. All right, now, so are you saying that you're an American because you were born in America? Is that correct?
yes, and because I was raised with, I mean, being in New Orleans, we have like the Irish and the Italian parades and the Irish Channel. And so like I was raised with Americanized culture of those roots, if that makes sense.
Yep, I love that word, Americanized. Keep going.
But I'm an American, you know, I love being from Louisiana. I love being from New Orleans. I love being from America. I don't necessarily identify with British culture or with, you know, I love the French culture. I took French in high school and I think we do have some French in us. You know, but I don't necessarily identify with the way of life from the European world. I identify more with the American way of life, you know, treat your neighbor like they're part of your family. You know, I was raised to, you know, treat everybody with respect. Everybody has the same basic rights and liberties that I have, and I'm not allowed to trample on theirs. They're not allowed to trample on mine. No pun intended. You know, and so, and that's one of the things that I also struggle with because like you said, well, what does it mean to be American? And the only thing I can think of when you tell me what it means to be American is 4th of July, red, white, and blue. And if you don't know what that means, then the only other words I can say is freedom. And I understand in the society and the way we live now, we're not free like we quote unquote should be and we're intended to be, but it's still the purpose and the meaning behind it, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, I got you. So this question might be.
Ask it.
All right, somebody just said it. So are Mexicans Americans?
Okay, so I've had this conversation. I've heard this conversation before. So let me clarify. United States of American. Okay, I understand that there is the Americas, the continent of America, which is the North American and the South American continent.
Got you.
And if a Canadian or a Mexican wanted to identify as a North American, and if we wanted to specify that we need to say United States or U.S. American versus a North American, I am all for that. But when I say I mean United States of American, like the 50 states, red, white, and blue, you know, Star Spangled Banner, American.
Okay, so you're talking about. All right, so in these 50 states of the red, white, and blue, as you proclaim, what is the name of the document that we are supposed to be using that governs our rules, regulations, all the things that we can and cannot do, et cetera, et cetera? What's the name of that document?
The Constitution.
Got it, the Constitution. All right. Could you somewhere in the Constitution, can you point me where it establishes whom the Americans are?
Now you asking me to dive 18 plus years back into my history studies.
Well, it's just
I'm
it's
just gonna
just
be
a
honest
matter
with you.
of
Like I don't have that much detailed remembrance. So just please, just cure my ignorance.
I'm gonna tell you that the word American is not uttered one time in the entire Constitution.
It's we the
It's not.
people. Somebody just
But
commented we the people.
but we the people translates to Lenni Lenape,
Okay.
which is a native, a so-called Native American Moorish tribe in New Jersey that taught the Europeans about the constitutional form of government, which is where they got it from.
Okay.
The
I'm picking up
word
my
the word
headphones. So thank you.
American the word American itself is not uttered one time throughout the entire document. Not one time.
What terminology and wording and language would you suggest is the proper way to describe being
Now we're getting to
from
it. Now we're getting to it. I
the
got you. I got you.
United States?
I got you. When everyone in the United States of America proclaims that they are American, and they say that they're an American because they're born here, what they're actually referencing is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which was written in 1866 and fraudulently ratified in 1868, where the 14th Amendment says, and I quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. So because we say, oh, well, I was born in Louisiana, I'm an American. That's what they put those two together, not realizing that the United States of America and the United States are both what we call, one, the United States of America is the current de facto name of the land, but two, the United States is indeed what?
A federal corporation.
So how can you be born in a federal corporation?
Correct. You can't. Not unless they own
You can't
you.
be born. You can't be born on a piece of paper. So when you say something to the effect of "I'm an American," I comprehend what you're saying, or at least what you're intending to convey. However, comma, pause for effect. Mexicans are Americans. Peruvians are Americans. Chileans are Americans. In the same exact way that Nigerians are Africans, and Congolese are Africans, and Kenyans are Africans, because their nation state is on the continent of Africa.
So then their
Irish,
ethnicity?
no, ethnicity is irrelevant when it comes to dealing with proclaiming.
Okay.
It's not really that important. The nationality encompasses that.
Okay, so when you say nationality to me, I think nation. And
Yes.
nation to me, compared to the Americas, is smaller because nations make up the continent of the Americas.
Yeah,
So if you
Keep
have
going.
a nationality, that would be, for me, for example, I would claim my nationality to be a New Orleanian because that is my most closest direct location to where I am from.
Now,
but
is New Hold on.
my continental identity would be an American, a North American specifically.
Is New Orleans a nation?
No, the United States of America, or what's supposed to be the United States, the non-corporation part of it, would be a nation.
New Orleans is not a nation. So proclaiming that you are a New Orleanian is just telling me the area that you were raised at.
Okay.
Right? Which is fine. Like we can accept that, but it doesn't establish on a record political designation. It doesn't establish on a record family lineage and bloodline.
Okay.
It doesn't do that. Right? So
then what about Louisiana then?
But Louisianian, you might have a case because Louisiana is indeed a state.
Okay.
Right? However, it's established